All right, let's bring Brett Bell in now. Brett, first off, thanks for taking some time to join us on the show this week.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you for
Let's
having me.
let's start from the top. I know going through your bio, I know you spent some time in Kansas State. Then you were at a CC in Kansas, and you were telling us off the top, kind of your story. So, kind of walk us through how did you end up going from Kansas and getting all the way to Orlando at UCF?
Yeah, so I mean, the reason why I went to Kansas State out of high school, I was a pretty under-recruited guy, 3-star, had Wyoming, Kansas State, and KU on my offer list. KU ended up offering me kind of a weird deal, so I just chose K-State over them being the hometown, like home state. Played for Coach Snyder. He got inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame when I signed. So like that second semester of my senior year, got inducted. So that was pretty cool to play for him. I went there for a year. I was a gray shirt, so I didn't enroll until January. Ended up playing there on scholarship. It was a surreal time, I was a red shirt my freshman year. In 2016 was technically my redshirt year. So started out there, traveled, went to Stanford. That was pretty cool. I was a number 3 guy during camp. Coach Snyder was a traditional type of football coach. So he decided to redshirt me when I was running with the 2s during camp that year. And it's kind of disappointing. That's kind of where it started, where I just kind of saw the writing on the wall during camp. They were going to redshirt me, and then kind of just was young and naive and didn't take it the right way. I knew at that point I was transferring, because like a lot of the guys were telling me like you should be in the rotation. He just wants to keep you here. Like he still thinks you're a little undersized, which I was. So I ended up just leaving that December. Did finals and went to the CC. Like I went to JUCO, went to Hutch. Great time. I mean, I think I was at Hutch for about 3 months, and that's when I started getting all the looks. Like that was when spring ball started. I got there in January. I got probably like 5 or 6 offers: Colorado, Arizona State. Who else? There's a lot of Pac-12 schools, and then like UNLV, some smaller schools. So I ended up committing in August before that season started. Arizona State, I was all in with that. So that's kind of that's where my journey started at UCF. I had that Arizona State commitment in August. Ended up leaving the JUCO because I got hurt. I hurt my foot. So that's when I actually got a medical red shirt. So that's why I played like 7 years, and I still have another year left. That year at Hutch after K-State didn't count as eligibility, even though I played for like 3 games. So ended up leaving. Arizona State was okay with me leaving. So they went through that season, and Coach Graham got fired, and what's his name? Herm Edwards came in, and he just completely wiped out everyone. All the commitments left. There's this guy named Speedy Naylor who played for Michigan State, a pretty solid receiver. He was committed with me there, and like everyone ended up decommitting. They took a lot of guys' offers that were smaller guys, and all the other schools ended up taking. It was in December when that happened, so I didn't have the Colorado offer or anything like that, UNLV. So I ended up being a preferred walk-on, and Coach Heuepl reached out to me. I come from a football family, so I had a lot of good networking. Blake Bell, my cousin, reached out to Coach Heuepl because he saw he was the head coach at UCF recently. So Heuepl reached out to me and offered me a preferred walk-on to UCF, and I enrolled in 2018 in January, and the rest was history. That's kind of that was my origin story to UCF.
So did you see UCF before you said you'd go there? Were you at Orlando at all before you agreed?
No, I didn't even see 1 ounce of it at all.
Did you look it up on the internet or something at least? At least hit the Google machine?
Yeah. I looked it up, and I was like, I wasn't really too worried about it. I was kind of just sitting there. Like, I remember I had a moment with God. I'm like, God, I just had everything 6 months ago. I just want a chance to play football. Like I'm still 20 years old. Like, please, like, I don't want to be done. Like K-State and JUCO was fun. Don't get me wrong, but I felt like I had more in me. So that was pretty awesome, but I never saw it. No, I just never had the time really. He called me a couple weeks before I ended up going there. So, but it was a little bit down a little bit when I got there. They've done a lot of improvements now, which is very impressive. So
tell us about Heuepl, the recruiter, right? So just optics aside, from the sidelines, he looks like he's a little bit, homely, right? He looks a little bit aw shucks, and snap to whistle, competing all 3 phases of the game. But what was he like as a recruiter? What was he like as somebody when you're on the phone with him and he's telling you to come to UCF? What was that conversation like?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of funny because Coach Heuepl, I mean, he gets a lot of good recruits, but he's not really a good like people person on the phone. I mean, I've known him since I was like 11 because he came to official visits to my cousin's house when he was committed to OU. So I met him when I was real younger, but he's a big film guy. Like, for example, I never had an official visit with him. My cousin did, and he just went downstairs for 3 hours that night after dinner and just watched film with my cousin Blake. Like, he's not a real like personal guy. He's all about business, hard worker. But when he recruited me and like just, I mean, I can't really explain his recruiting because he never really recruited me. I mean, I kind of just knew him and he gave me the opportunity. But, I mean, he's a good guy. I mean, on the phone, he was actually at the Peach Bowl when he was talking to me. He's like, yeah, I'm actually in Atlanta right now. I'm at the Peach Bowl. I always remember that. But he was just real to the point guy. He told me everything that he had to offer. And then he's like, your cousin played tight end for me at OU his last year, got drafted. He kind of just gave me the spiel on that recruiting pitch of you could do this. Like, I've done it with these other guys in my offense. So that was, and I remember a lot of guys told me my cousin was brought up for his recruiting pitch as well for the tight ends. Kind of like, I've done it before. I had this guy go 4th round. Like, now he's been in the league for 9 years. So, but yeah, he's a great recruiter. You can see him now at Tennessee. So doing his thing there as well. So, yeah.
So you hadn't been to Orlando, but obviously in 2017, UCF had a perfect season. You just said you were speaking to Heuepl at the Peach Bowl. How much did the success of that season kind of influence you? Hey, I want to go to this place because they're on top right now and they're a winning program.
Yeah, I know. It definitely did play into my decision. I mean, coming out of high school, UCF was 0-15. Like, I'm that old, and then now I'm going there, I have opportunity, and they went undefeated. I mean, it's pretty hard to say no to that. But in general, just for me, like, I was just kind of that walk-on guy. Like, I obviously preferred walk-on and got a scholarship quick, but I didn't even really look at it that. I was kind of just looking at the humble aspect of me just having a chance to go there. But that just added on to it, being in Orlando, being Disney World, all that, them being undefeated. And then I was a tight end, so I knew I had a great quarterback I could rely on. He's proved himself. I think he was 3rd in the Heisman that year or something like that. So all those things did play into it for sure, and I definitely thought about that.
So we're heading into the Big 12 now, right? You were coming over from Kansas State. You got to practice with those guys for a year. You saw the talent level. How would you compare the talent level at Kansas State and then moving over to UCF, where we had one of our best teams ever? Was there much of a difference, or actually were we better?
I mean, I'm going to be pretty transparent. I mean, a lot of the guys there were a lot bigger at Kansas State. I mean, one of the guys I went against on scout team my freshman year when I redshirted was a 2nd-round DN. So, like, there's a lot of talent. But I will say this, and a lot of people continue to say this that come from big schools that, like, don't lie. It's like the skill guys at UCF that we had there and we have there now are just outstanding, better, or if not, like, or the same, if not better than all the guys at the big power. Even the guys we played against at K-State, they're better. So, and then obviously 2018, I mean, those guys were out there. We were competing. I mean, there's a lot of dudes on that team that are in the NFL now. So it's hard to compare it, but I would say definitely they do. It's not like it's a big drop off at all. But it was just probably the side. There's just a lot of guys walking around at big Power 5 schools that are 6'6", that are just big bodies. But UCF just had something different, kind of the chip on their shoulder and real quick, athletic, and then the talent level in Florida obviously is just the best there is. So that was something that I noticed real quick, was just the talent level of everyone in high school there and just all the recruits coming out of there. So yeah, definitely, I would say that it's pretty comparable for sure, which is impressive.
Take us back to that 2018 season. So you're a walk-on, right? You're on campus now. What's life like as a walk-on? I mean, was it, were you having to fight every day for your spot? Were you having to earn your respect? Take us into that period of time as you first got involved in practice and getting ready for the season.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had a lot of respect just because of my name and kind of where I came from. So it wasn't like I was a typical walk-on, but I mean, it couldn't be that bad of a life when you just came off an undefeated season and everyone's treating you like royalty, like everyone's all happy. It'd be different if you came to a team and you're a walk-on and like you kind of had a bad season, or there's guys that are trying to prove themselves. So it was definitely a lot better experience than I've seen other walk-ons have at other schools. So and then like the guys like Wyatt Miller, Hoodie, all those guys that just were there, they were big leaders. Jake Hescock even took me in. We were roommates like 6 months after I got to UCF. So a lot of those guys played into it too. Mac Loudermilk, I remember. So, I mean, I was definitely a guy that was kind of more looked at differently than most walk-ons. So it made my process and kind of my situation there a little bit easier. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be for sure.
All right, so you start off as a tight end when you get there in 2018, right? Can you describe for us the role of the tight end in Heuepl's offense? Right, we think of the wide splits, like the explosive plays downfield, the rushes up the middle, that AK or whatever gash for yards. What was the tight end's role in Heuepl's offense?
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of H-back stuff. So, I mean, if you're a football guy, I mean, there's a lot of you motion going in the backfield, a lot of you split out. It's not a lot of traditional tight end things that I was used to at K-State. You don't have, I mean, very rarely you have your hand in the dirt with Heuepl unless you're short yardage or you're down on the goal line. So that was something that I like that, because you would be split out a lot. You'd have to know a lot of the receivers' routes and kind of have to know the motions and everything. So it was definitely it's a different spot to play if you're not used to it. If you're kind of been a traditional guy that's used to blocking, you don't really do too much of that. As you see, Kubiali thrived in that offense in 2018 because he was more of a quick guy, H-back guy, compared to guys like me and Hescock that didn't have too much production just because we didn't really thrive in that type of H-back position.
Coming off the undefeated season in 17, there was a lot of talk of how we were still not getting the respect we deserved. And in 18, we're running the table again. You guys following the rankings every week? You're pissed off at where they're putting us every week? Is there any hope that we might make the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, in 2018, I think we kind of knew after the year before how it didn't happen. We kind of knew, nothing's really going to change this year if it didn't happen last year. But I mean, we never never got to any of our guys like that. Our goal was always just to win every game. And obviously our motto that year was 1-0. So that kind of answers your question right there. We're kind of just focused on 1 week at a time, trying to do our best. And that's all we weren't really worried about people. We're underrated or anything like that. So
a lot of blowouts that season, but a couple really tough, close games too. The Memphis games in particular, the one on the road, we're down 30 to 18 or 30 to 14, 16. And the Taj McGowan play, Gabe takes one to the house. What do you remember about that day and that comeback?
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty crazy game. That was probably one of my favorite games in my career. I mean, you add the aspect, if you weren't there at the game, of it raining and being cold. I mean, that whole aspect. And then we're also from Florida. So, I mean, I was used to it, but a lot of us aren't used to the elements like that. It wasn't just raining, it was cold. So, I mean, but that was a crazy game. Like that 4th and 1 play where Taj broke loose. Tristan Hill, I think that we called that our bone package, where we had the big guy in there just running people over, and then he just busted loose. And then obviously KZ's dive in the end zone for that one touchdown. I can't remember like the scores or anything like that, but I just remember that was a big time play. Seeing him kind of put himself out there, like you knew that's KZ, that's your quarterback, and he's still going to do that and put his team on the back. So that was an awesome game. I mean, can't beat that, beating Memphis at their place. I mean, that was pretty – and obviously 2018 season, they were really good, so that was a good win for us.
Yeah, that 2-year run, Brett, we had a lot of memorable games at home. The year before, obviously, you get there, we have the game against the Cows, we have the championship game. But I don't know if there was a louder stadium in that 2018 game when Cincinnati comes to town. College game days there, primetime game, 8 p.m. Take us on the field. How loud was it? I mean, could you like literally feel how loud it was in that first initial part of the game?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a game changer right there. I mean, there's a lot of mental things that go into football. And when you start off the game like that, Cincinnati, and that happening, I mean, I remember sitting on the sideline. There's not much to say. I mean, I just remember it was so loud. I'm like, okay, college game days here. Like, it's pretty loud on the kickoff. We're all good. And then the defense goes out there, and it just keeps getting louder. And then the false start happens, or the delay game happens, and it just gets even louder. It's just like my ears were ringing. I couldn't really hear I couldn't hear my coaches talk for the next 5 minutes. It's just like unreal atmosphere. I played in a lot of big places, playing at K-State, so a lot of fans, a lot of big stadiums. I mean, that was definitely the loudest in my whole career. I always talk about that all the time with the boys, just how crazy that was, just seeing the look on their faces, like being on the field, seeing the Cincinnati offensive line, like they're just so scared, just how the environment, just you could tell it affected them. So that was definitely awesome to see that, and just that's a game-changing moment having Night Nation there like that.
Yeah, how big a deal is the crowd noise? I mean, we always take pride in trying to pack the bounce house every week and have people there. I know sometimes students leave early and whatnot. As players, can you all notice that? Do you all feed off that energy when you look up and you're like, man, there's light crowd today, or man, the crowd's really into it? Is that palpable for you all on the field?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much you play. I mean, a guy like me, I'm kind of more of the sideline guy, trying to get getting the morale going, the veteran out there. So I'm not a starter. Like the Matt Lees of the world and the Cole Snyders, just being close to them, they don't really think about that too much. But I mean, we will mention it, be like, hey, it's kind of light out here tonight, or no one's really sticking around. But I mean, it's definitely not something that affects us at all. But I was kind of spoiled with it coming in 2018, it really being packed out all the time. So I definitely saw the downfall for a year or two, but now now that Malzahn came back, I feel like it's back. COVID, it hurt a lot. That's really what the downfall was. So,
sure.
But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say it affects us or anything, but you notice it. I mean, how do you not notice it? But it's not going to affect your game. At the end of the day, you got a grown man in front of you. I mean, they're on scholarship, so you just got to kind of just think of it that way. You don't really let that affect you too much.
So we're rolling through that season. We're beating everybody up, a couple close ones. But then McKenzie gets hurt in Tampa. And really the feeling as a fan base is, oh, my God, what the heck's going to happen? Take us through that week leading into the championship game. You got to get a new quarterback ready. What was the feeling like of the team? And when we're down at halftime so much, I mean, is there any panic in the room at that time?
Oh, when Casey got hurt at halftime after he got hurt, you saying? Or is that what you're asking?
So going into the next game, the championship game against Memphis,
yeah.
Getting Daryl Mack ready to start, and then, that game did not start off the best way.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too hot of a start, but I mean, we kind of saw that coming. He had the jitters. I mean, he's in a championship game, first time starting, young guy too. It's not like he's been there for a while. I think he was a redshirt freshman. So, I mean, you got to play that into everything. And most guys won't start off very hot anyways in that situation. So, that's kind of coming as a freshman. And he shook it off. And I mean, it was pretty cool to see him come back. I mean, having Otis just ball out that game as well and have that risky throw that he threw over the safety and Otis caught it and scored. That was pretty cool to see. And I mean, but we all trusted DJ. I mean, at the end of the day, like that was our guy. Like we knew he had confidence. Like we knew that he could do it. And obviously he's a big body too. So that always makes you feel comfortable having your quarterback be a big body. You can always run or he can take a sack and it's not going to really you're not going to kind of cringe, we might have to have the third string go in. So we always kind of had that confidence in him and knew that we were on a run with Heuepel's offense that we weren't really nervous at all.
And then take us to the Fiesta Bowl. Obviously, the team hadn't lost in 2 seasons, and we end up losing to a very good LSU team, the team that went on the next year to win the whole thing. But take us into the locker room after that loss. Guys are not used to losing in the program anymore. What's it like after we take one on the chin?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely not an easy one to take. I mean, going all the way out there to Arizona for a week and kind of preparing, having that whole month, it definitely hurt a lot, everything we put into it. But, I mean, we knew we were playing against a good team, and then obviously that panned out to be true. I mean, they won the Natty the next year, but we kind of knew that we lost to a great team, and there wasn't really anything we could do. Gabe had a great game. I mean, there's a little inside information I could say. Like, I remember Heuepl a couple of times when it was crunch time, he would just kind of go up to DJ and be like, just throw the ball to 13. He's like, just give it to 13. That's all that matters. Like, I remember hearing that. I probably shouldn't say that, but I remember him saying that a lot towards the end, like just because Gabe was balling out that game. But, I mean, in the locker room after, it's kind of different. If a bowl game, you don't really see anyone because everyone goes with their families and everything. But, I mean, on the bus, it was definitely sad. But I wish we didn't go out like that with the 2018 team. I mean, that team right there was a lot of characters on that team. I mean, that was like, we're all family. Like, I feel like a lot of those guys are like my brothers to this day. So it did hurt to see it go out like that and kind of be sad. But we were also proud of just winning the American Conference Championship that year and just being out there in Phoenix, kind of just celebrating after. It was kind of just like, it was bittersweet, but we were also celebrating the whole season and kind of what they all did going from 0-15 to going back-to-back championships and going to the Fiesta Bowl and Peach Bowl. So it was a little bit both sides.
I love Gabe, and he had a great game, but he had one touchdown in his hand. Should have been called pass interference. The guy hit him, but he's got to come down with that one, yeah?
I know. Yeah, I know. I remember that was right before his breakout year, so it was like, I think that he did that on purpose almost so he could grind right before his breakout year.
Yeah, he's doing okay for himself now. I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah.
2019 rolls around, Brett, and you become an offensive lineman. Take us into that transition. How did it come about? Your idea, coach's idea, and obviously, you said earlier you were used to sort of blocking and mixing it up. But what do you have to change about your game and your body to adjust to being an offensive lineman?
Yeah, I mean, that was crazy having to go make that change. But I mean, it came with a lot of good things. I mean, I had a lot of playing time offered. Like, there was a good opportunity for me with that left tackle spot being open with Jake Brown leaving. So it was kind of good for me. I don't know if did it happen. Oh, it was before Jake Brown left when I moved to offensive line, but that's kind of why they're doing it. So I could learn from him. But I mean, the weight that I had to gain in that off season when I switched to O-line was crazy. I think I went from 239 my January weigh in to about 275, 280 in June coming back for summer weight. So I put on a lot of weight. It was a lot of muscle weight too, because I have a hard time eating. So I would just drink a lot of protein shakes and do it that way. Kind of just try to work out harder because you always gain weight just building muscle. So that's kind of just the route I took. it was a grind for sure. My first year playing O-line was kind of brutal. I was just a backup. I didn't really know anything. But then 2020 came around, and I think I did a lot better. And then we had a lot of injuries at tight end, and I played a lot at tight end. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't that bad. It's not anything too crazy. Like, we go through a lot in college football, so it wasn't anything out of line.
So it was the coach's idea. They came to you and asked you to change to O-line?
Yeah, they just said, Heuepl called my dad, and he just said, I mean, Brett's a freak at tight end. He's athletic, but he's like super, super athletic at offensive line. Just seeing him play, like, I think that would be a good opportunity for him, and let's just try it out. And then after the first week of spring ball, he called my dad and said that. So it was kind of just a spring ball trial. Like, if it went miserably bad, they're obviously going to move me back. Like, there's no reason, but it worked out, and I gained the weight really good. I put on a lot of good weight and did it pretty quickly. So it worked out, and I played pretty good. So
I'm not sure if this is the right question to ask. I mean, football is football. Was it fun? Did you enjoy that switch? Was it something that you were like, okay, I'm good with this? Or was it just to your point, an opportunity to compete and maybe get on the field?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely something that was not fun. I mean, I always wanted to be catching balls and kind of running routes and everything, but it was also just a team player thing. Like, my job I have right now, that was one of the things I said in the interview. I said I was a team player. I kind of didn't want to move to offensive line, but I just did it because I knew we had that need, and I could still kind of move back to tight end and be that blocking tight end if I needed to. But we really had the need at at offensive line, not tight end. So it just it wasn't fun, but it was just a team player type thing. I mean, that's just kind of how it is sometimes. But then I grew into something I got really good at, and Phil Lodeholt played for the Vikings for a while. He came around, and he was offensive line coach for 1 year. He helped me out a lot, so it got better as time went on.
So being an ex-tight end, do you ever get in the coach's ears every once in a while before a game and say, hey, you want to do a tackle-eligible play and hit me in the end zone for one of these?
Yeah, we actually had a play drawn up this year for Cincinnati. I had a tackle really, or not this year, in 2020, but we never actually ran it because we got beat pretty bad. But I mean, they had a lot of. I mean, I had that one pass I dropped as a tight end back in the day. I think it was 2019 when we played FAMU. I dropped it in the back of the end zone. Brandon Wimbush was actually one that threw that to me. But yeah, I mean, I had a lot of plays drawn up. They trusted me. It's always how the coaches say, I have all these plays drawn up, but they never use them. So it's like you can't really get in his ear during the game. But I had a lot of options.
All right, so moving over to the offensive line, it's something new for you. Obviously, going up against a lot of talented guys in practice at UCF. Which guy gave you the hardest time in practice?
I mean, the best player I went against, who I really had a hard time against, honestly, is Tremon Morris-Brash. I mean, he is an absolute freak, and I think sometimes it doesn't show in games because he has asthma and he gets real tired, and also the rotation's kind of hard. But I mean, if you could see his practice, I mean, when he's on one-on-ones, he's an absolute freak. Like, there's some moves there's nothing I could do. If I knew it was coming, there's nothing I could really do. But I mean, Drop was one guy, and then I was obviously a skinny guy for offensive tackle. So anyone that kind of did power rushes, Josh Heuepl, guys like that. Brendan Hayes used to get me a lot back when I was real younger, but those type of guys kind of gave me problems. But I think Drop's slept on a lot by people, I think, for sure.
Well, I think a lot of people, I didn't know until just now you told me that he has asthma. I think a lot of people just assume that he gets lazy sometimes.
Yeah, no, he just has a lot of problems. I mean, I think he even medical issues that go back to even high school. So I think that's just something that he's always dealt with. I mean, there's a lot of guys always had, like, even Otis was like that. There's a lot of guys on the team now that might have sickle cell or something like that. That kind of just, you have to take them out and they just get tired. But that's just medical issues. The same thing as having a bad knee. But yeah, I think Big Cat was pretty good too, but Drop was better. I had Big Cat in my head. You're probably expecting me to say that, but honestly, he wasn't really. I did a pretty good job against him.
All right, so 2019 comes around. We lose the Fiesta Bowl, but obviously we haven't lost a regular season game in a long time. But the team is changing now at this point, right? McKenzie's going to be out. We know that. Daryl Mack is presumed to be maybe the front runner for quarterback. He gets injured in the summertime. Brandon Wimbush, you mentioned, he comes in from Notre Dame, and then the skinny kid from Hawaii comes flying in, right? As an O lineman, obviously there's a bit of a quarterback battle right between the three of them. How did you see that play out from your perspective? Were you able to tell pretty quickly, like, hey, which of these three guys is going to be the guy? Or in your mind, were all three kind of neck and neck, and Heuepl had to make a tough decision?
I mean, from day one, when they were kind of competing in the spring, when it was kind of Wimbush and Dylan were separating themselves, I Coach Heuepl said, he quoted or something. He said, Dylan Gabriel's spring practice was the best, or spring was the best spring I've seen since Sam Bradford when he was a freshman at OU. So that was kind of like eye-opening to me. I'm like, he's definitely going to start him then, but we'll see in camp. But Wimbush ended up taking away with it, and it was pretty even all throughout camp. But, I mean, I think Wimbush kind of just gave up the job. I could probably check that on media. I don't want to say anything, but I think Dylan just took over. But it was pretty fair. I think they're going to do rotation until someone separated themselves. But we kind of all knew Dylan from the start was going to be the guy for sure.
And then we go to Pittsburgh, and again, one of those battles that we had on the road in those seasons where we're down a little bit, we're not playing our best, but great comeback. Otis, rest in peace, has a fantastic punt return for a touchdown. Momentum starting to shift, and then they run some nonsense play on the goal line. Right, they score, they win the game. Our first regular season loss, in that historic run. You all go back to the locker room. You're sitting down. What's said? Who's talking? Who's saying anything? What were the emotions like as you finally took the helmet off and recognized that the streak, quote unquote, was over?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely a big time thing for us at that time. I think it hurt a lot just going to Pitt. I think that's a big place to play, Power 5 school. It did hurt losing that way too. I remember just that. I think they call it the Pitt special, but the Eagles ran it the year before, so. But, I mean, in the locker room, it's honestly really, really quiet. It reminded me kind of like the Fiesta Bowl. It was just kind of real quiet. We didn't really know what to say. A lot of the leaders stepped up. Like Dylan had an opportunity to be a leader. He stepped up and kind of just encouraged the guys. Heuepl always did a lot of the talking as well. So, I mean, it wasn't as bad. But, I mean, it was just disappointing. I mean, I remember just going in there, we had a lot of confidence, obviously, having that regular season streak. And just we knew that losing to LSU was just kind of like, it shouldn't have happened. Like, we still had that confidence in ourselves. So it honestly was really shocking. I think that's probably why it was so quiet. It was just like the way it ended and the way that we thought we probably weren't going to lose. It was just all around pretty surreal.
Was there any relief in any sense? Like, okay, finally now we can just focus on playing. Now we have to worry about the streak and the media and all this stuff. But is there a tiny bit of that, like at all playing in your mind?
No, not really as a competitor. Like, obviously you just want to be the best. Like, I mean, you always want to win, always want to kind of just have that name, like, oh, you guys were that team that went undefeated, had the streak. You want to keep that alive. So, yeah, it definitely hurt. But there's no, like, I'll take that all day if we're winning. I don't care. But I remember there was one thing you brought up, Otis, after the game. The special teams coach went up to Otis. He's like, I'm glad I don't have to deal with you anymore, because I think that was Otis's last year. He's like, I think this is the last time we're playing you guys. Like, you're a freak, dude. Like, there's no way we can prepare for you. And I think that's because he had a great game that game. But that was a pretty cool thing. I remember Otis telling us after.
So a couple other tough losses that year. I think we lost 3 games by a total of 8 points. The Pittsburgh game, Cincinnati, and Tulsa. Pittsburgh, it's a non-conference game. You can put it past you. But those other 2 really hurt, especially the Tulsa game. I still don't know what happened that day. We've never won in Tulsa. Why is it so hard to go into Tulsa and win a football game?
I don't know what it was. Obviously, the weather played into it. I mean, being 30 degrees, a lot of the guys from Florida never been out of Florida. So that one hurt really bad for me, especially. I played a decent amount in that game in the 12 personnel package. I was on the goal line for a touchdown one time, and I'm obviously from Wichita, Kansas. So I had like 40 people there from my whole family all back home, about 2 hours from where I'm from. So that one hurt bad, but it wasn't as bad because I saw them thereafter and they haven't seen me play really that much. So that was cool. But I don't know. It's just we were playing. It was just really cold. Dylan didn't have that good a game. Dylan got hit. His helmet came off. That kind of like shook him up a little bit, lost our momentum. And just they were doing everything right that game. And there's nothing like we could really do. It was just you can't really blame it on the weather. But that was the main reason why we didn't have our momentum at the beginning. We couldn't get anything going.
After the Cincinnati game, really, Heuepl came out and said, they showed us a defense that we were not prepared for, we had never seen before. But what was it? Why didn't we make any adjustments? Did we just stick stubbornly to the same game plan? Was there nothing changed at halftime in each of those games?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's pretty stubborn on his game plan, and he thinks eventually it'll work. Or if there's little niches or grooves that are working, he'll just go to that and just kind of keep trying to pick out different things from his offense. But I mean, we always game plan at halftime. Obviously, there's some things that we're doing good. Is the run game working? What's working in the run game? Should we air it out more? What are we doing wrong? But I mean, honestly, it was just kind of how we played. It wasn't really had nothing to do with adjustments. There were just key plays or key mistakes that we made that kind of just ended up in the long run making us lose the game. I mean, Cincinnati, I remember that game. That was that was my most easily the loudest away game I ever played in. I was in the 12 personnel a lot, and I don't know, they seemed pretty soft. Like, they were always, the linebackers were running away from me when I was trying to block them. They didn't want any part of the contact. So it was just kind of, I don't know what happened. We just couldn't put it together and just had some mistakes and turnovers that hurt us bad, especially in Cincinnati.
Well, you mentioned this earlier. So if I could just ask you this question, sum up the 2020 season in 3 words or less, what would you say?
I would say 3 words or less. I would just say like 2 words would be like reality check just for UCF. I feel like we were just living in this fairy tale world, always winning, always having everything go for us. And then 2020 hit, and it's just like, damn, like we're not doing good at all. COVID hit us. COVID hurt us really bad. I mean, for me personally too, it was a reality check because, I mean, I didn't really play that much. I didn't play I missed all of camp and didn't really play, even travel the first 3 games, didn't even go to Georgia Tech. So like for me, it was pretty crazy. And then I think game 6 or something, Alec Haller and Jake were both kind of hurt. Alec for sure hurt his ankle, and I started playing a lot. I went from not traveling to being like a key guy and like rotating in a lot, played a lot against Houston. So, I mean, it was just a big reality check for us. Like, we were on the top of the world, and we're finally like, this is a normal season. Like, you can kind of justify the 3 losses in 2019, obviously 2018. It's just like 2020 was like, wow, like we're like back to like 6-6. This isn't good. But I mean, I think last year we bounced back really well with the new coach and everything, and everyone kind of just forgot about it and put it behind them.
I mean, and this is probably a tough question to answer, but what happened? I mean, obviously we know COVID was a whole thing, right? I think everybody, was in a different mind space at that point in their lives, football players, non-football players, just as humans, right? We're all in a weird spot. We saw the little, I don't know what you want to call it, the dust up between Obarski and Quadri in the sideline against Memphis. Late in the season, a bunch of defensive guys end up going out, getting in trouble with law enforcement. They get kicked off the team. What happened? Was it just a lack of focus, a lack of discipline? Just everybody sort of frustrated with the situation? If you had to just pinpoint like, hey, this is where I think things went wrong, do you have any idea what that was?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole Quadri thing was just Quadri being just young and naive and kind of just not being mature about the situation. I mean, obviously we're humans, emotions get the best of you, and he just didn't know how to react. And I think it was just one of those things. Quadri said that's all he does at practice is just kicks the ball. Like, why can't you just kick the ball and make it? So I think that's what he said, and it just kind of got under Obarski's skin, and he kind of latched and just, it was all on camera. So like national TV, that doesn't help. I mean, if that was on camera, no one even talked about it. It obviously exposes us because, that's how the locker room is. And it was kind of bad after that, but that just shows kind of the reality check of like, hey, we're not doing good now. We're not winning. Like, that's when winning's the best deodorant. Cause like, this is when all the problems show up. Like, now that we're kind of a real team, reality check, like now what's going to happen? So you saw some things like that happen, but we bounced back from it. I mean, I don't think it was that big a deal. And then the guys going out and kind of doing that whole situation, I don't know how to comment on that, but it was just kind of them. I don't even know really why they were out or doing all that night, but I guess we were playing Houston that week, and I was like one of my best games of my career actually after that happened. But I mean, that was just kind of one of those things. I mean, a lot of those guys came from really some bad areas, so it's like you can't really blame them. That's kind of just how some of them are where they came up, and that's kind of what they do. And they're sometimes scared. Like one of those guys, his dad got murdered. So, I mean, they're probably just paranoid, maybe just keep a gun. Like, that was just kind of childish of them driving like that. Nothing would have came up if they weren't speeding around. So that's just kind of one of those things comes with the environment. But I wouldn't say I would judge those guys too bad. I mean, A-Rob, who was with them, is a first rounder. So didn't work out too bad for him. I think it was just kind of wrong place at the wrong time.
That season, obviously, it's COVID. You're not supposed to be going out. Everybody's staying in a bubble. Did you know guys were going out? Were there other guys that were going out and just kind of keeping it secret and not really getting in trouble like this? Or was everybody pretty much locked in?
Yeah, I forgot about that completely. That does play into it a lot. It's definitely, now I think about it, very childish. I mean, it's a Wednesday night. I think it was a Wednesday night. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. I get we don't have a hard practice Thursday and Friday, but it's like that's kind of ridiculous. But, yeah, no one was really going out. We were pretty good about it. The guys that really cared about playing would not go out. Some guys that never played or walk-ons possibly would be in the COVID watch and kind of be 2 weeks quarantine if they got found going out. Or obviously if you're going to go out, you're going to get sick. So it's going to come about, and we wanted to play. So I was definitely a guy that didn't go out. I kind of had some things happen where I was just like, not trying to do any of that. I didn't want to go out, get in trouble, get sick or anything. My aunt had died from COVID, so I just was kind of just worried about it. And also, it's like I'm playing college football, I'm on scholarship. Why would I waste this opportunity by going out on the weekends? Like I can stay home for this one season and then the off season figure it out and see where we go from there. But yeah, we were pretty disciplined about it.
All right, I gotta know this. The Heuepl play calling, the way they get the plays in so fast, is it a set order? You guys know what the next 3 plays are? Does it depend? Okay, if this play hits, we're running it again. Is there a lot of those? Or how do you guys know exactly how to get the play in so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, he would have a couple of things. I mean, there would be some packages I would be on. It would be like a speed series. So you'd memorize 4 plays in a row, and you got to know what you're doing on those 4 plays. But sometimes it would be like, all right, we're going to run this one play. If it does bad and the second play does bad, then we're not going to run the third play. We're going to take you out. Or if the first play, like one time was a Jay Flash when he caught that pitch and ran real far down the field. I don't know if you guys remember that play, but that was part of the speed series. But like he would have things like that, but I don't want to expose Heuepl too much, but his signals were just very quick. The easiest way to put it is the signals were quick. So you had to be pretty intelligent. It's like this right here is a whole play, formation play. Everyone, you know who's in. It's like it's just one of these things, and it's like left side, right side, 2 of them. So it's just like that was really the main basis. And then you got to just go quick. Like in practice, I'll get yelled at a lot for just not getting down in my stance and things like that. Yeah.
That's interesting, the third down part, because I think a lot of fans always had frustrations with third down, like 3rd and like 5 or greater. It seemed like more times than not, we were just going to run something up the middle, get 2 or 3 yards and then punt away. Was that by design? Because at that point, the series had sort of broken down and, at that point it was like, okay, let's plan for the next series.
Yeah. And he would kind of change up his game plan a little bit and maybe just want to run the ball. I mean, he did like running the ball on 3rd and short a lot. He trusted Ellerby. I mean, he was one of the best offensive line coaches out there, so I think he just trusted the run game in some of those situations. Yeah, and also, yeah, it could be there's a certain way it was going, and maybe it's just time management or whatever. We're just going to punt it if we don't get it here and just run the ball. So yeah.
So obviously 2020 was just a rough year all around. It ends with a really bad loss in the Boca Bowl. You guys will probably head back to Orlando, licking your chops, getting ready to get the 21 season started. And then one day you're sitting around. I don't know where you are. I'm not sure what's going on, but maybe your phone goes off. Maybe it's on ESPN. Maybe it's one of these college football guys. But Heuepl to Tennessee rumors start circulating. Where were you when you first sort of heard that was a possibility? And how were you made aware that, yeah, that's actually true? He was leaving to go to Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty funny story how it happened. We were all on a Zoom, the whole entire team like this. And it was kind of one of these events we have, like some foundation comes in. It's like teaching us something like how to talk to the media or blah, 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 or how to do NIL deals. So we just had one of those Zooms. Everyone was in there, and it was all happening. It was like an hour long, so we weren't allowed to look at our phones. They were really mad, like they would make us focus. So we had no idea the whole entire time. And then like I saw Dylan leave, and I saw a couple other people leave, and then Smitty, our guy, I think player development guy, just got on. He goes, "Yeah, man, we're gonna have to end this session. We have an emergency team meeting right now." And then like everyone just started leaving, and we had to go straight to the team room. And that's like, so we kind of were. We didn't really see it. We'd never heard about it until it happened because we were all doing that Zoom. I mean, some people probably did, but I know I didn't.
And your reaction was?
I mean, I was pretty disappointed just because I know him personally, and I was kind of sad that he didn't tell me or anything. And I think I was growing a lot in the offense. I had my best year in 2020, and I was just kind of like looking to build on that for 2 more years with him and see where it takes me. But him leaving kind of really killed me, and I really just like wanted to quit for a while, and then I just stuck it out for 1 more year to see if I liked it with the new coaching staff, and then kind of just got burnt out. So that's why I foregoed my last year. But yeah, it was definitely heartbreaking. And I remember a lot of the guy, I mean, I think it doesn't really matter now, but I remember Dylan didn't even show up to the meeting or even like say goodbye to Heuepl or anything. So a lot of the guys had hard feelings. Did you ever get a chance to talk to him since then? Have you had a chance to hash it out or at least say anything to him? I have not talked to Heuepl since, but I mean, I think we're still in good terms. There's nothing like, I don't hate him. I know it's a business, all that. And I mean, I have not reached out to him though since, but I'm sure I'll have to catch up with him here soon. But yeah, nothing really, but our relationship wasn't really like that. We're just real text guys. I probably texted him after a Tennessee game a couple of times, but I've never really talked to him about that. There's no hard feelings.
So what's the reaction like after that? Everybody, a lot of guys on the team were kind of pushing for Jeff Lebby to be the next coach, and we come in and we hire Malzahn anyway. So what's the reaction of the locker room? Were you one of those guys that wanted Lebby?
Yeah.
And how did you take it?
I tweeted it, and a lot of the guys said, like, hey, man, we probably shouldn't be doing this because what if he doesn't get hired and it's going to make us look really bad to the fans, to everyone. So, like, some guys started backtracking, and then some guys like me were like, no, it's just going to happen. Like, we're not going to think negatively. We're going to get our guy. And then it didn't work out. But it was like, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, it was all Levy. I'm like, I never had a chance to think of who I wanted. And I'm like, I would want a big-time guy. I would want someone from a big-time school, like, who has a pretty big notoriety. And that's exactly who we got. So that was pretty cool.
And what was Malzahn like in person when you finally got to meet him? Did it kind of did he convince you right away that he was the guy for the job?
I mean, yeah, he was just real professional. He reminded me of Coach Snyder. I mean, there was not really too much convincing at the beginning. We didn't really see him too much. It was just kind of that dead period of college football where he was just doing recruiting or doing his thing as the new head coach. So we only had a couple meetings with him, but I really got to know Heuepl really well, and I really liked him. And I kind of know you don't really link with your head coach too much. You're mostly with your position coach besides like on game day and kind of team meetings. So I really liked him, and I was really excited about it. And then Malzahn won me over for sure in the spring, just giving me a lot of praise, and kind of I was like the best tackle besides Sam Jackson, getting a lot of the praise in the meetings. So he definitely won me over on that for sure.
Well, it appeared, at least, and this is just you said fan reaction, so I'm interested that you said that, how much you guys were thinking through, like, what the fans are going to think. But I mean, the move for college kids, unfortunately, right, is you don't like something, you go to social media, right? So some people took all their UCF stuff off social media, some people weren't responding to stuff, right? How long do you think it took the entire team to really kind of buy in and go, okay, you know what, it's not Levy, it's not the guy I wanted, but Malzahn's here and it's good enough? Like, how long do you think before you felt like, okay, we're all clicking on the same page?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of some of the guys he was bringing in, like GJ, I think kept Dylan around. I mean, he just brought in the defensive coordinator from Auburn. I think he was actually at Miami, Coach Williams. So there's just a lot of big-time guys coming in, a lot of transfers coming in. I think that's also what it was. So we're like, all right, well, at least we're getting a pretty good deal out of it. We're getting a lot of good guys, a lot of good coaches. That's what matters. So I think after a while it kind of set in, and all that Heuepl thing was over with, and kind of everyone was bought in, and we knew Dylan was coming back. That's kind of just how it happened. We just liked who they brought in, and the spring ball went well. So
you were in a battle for that left tackle spot for that whole sort of off season leading into camp. What was that like? I know you and Marcus Tatum. We had Marcus on the show, super nice guy, by the way. What was that battle like between you? And is it weird? You're battling a teammate, probably somebody you like, somebody you spend a lot of time with, somebody you respect. There's only one spot though. Take us inside sort of that spring and that fall campus battle.
Yeah, I mean, me and Marcus are really close. He's a real funny guy. I always like to mess with him and just prank him and joke with him. But yeah, he's definitely a cool guy. I mean, I think everyone was a little bit shocked because when Coach Hand got there and spring ball started, I was actually number 4 on the depth chart behind Paul Rubault. So it was like really far back at left tackle. And then 3 practices went by, and I went all the way up to number 1. Marcus Tatum got COVID, so that's why I went to number 1 past Ed after like probably a week of spring ball. And then I had the number 1 spot the whole time. A lot of the coaches, even during camp, came up to me and they're like, hey, they asked us to pick our top 11 on each side, and you were on my top 11. So, like, I had a really good spring. I had the position, but Tatum just wasn't there because of COVID, besides, like, the very end in the spring game. So we knew it was big for camp, like, our competition. And it went down to the very end. The last scrimmage was, like, kind of the last deciding factor. And I kind of just didn't have a very good scrimmage assignment-wise. I had some missed assignments, and he did it. And, I mean, a lot of people think that I didn't get a fair chance or anything during camp. But, I mean, I think it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I should have started. Like, I think Tatum, he balled out. He deserved it. I mean, and it worked out for him. But, I mean, you could say what you want. I mean, competition brings out the best in everyone. So that's just kind of how it happened. I wish I would have rotated in maybe this year, but it didn't work out that way. So
this past season, new head coach, new everything. And then we have this ESPN Plus series, Our Time, following everybody around. What was that like? Did guys act differently because they knew they were on camera? Were you mic'd up at any point? What was that whole process like leading into the season?
Yeah, I think it was definitely different, having the camera everywhere. And, like, we would have the camera in there for position meetings, and that was kind of a little bit different. But I would say I was never mic'd up, but there would be always a guy around me mic'd up in the O-line or something, or one of my buddies. And it would just kind of, you wouldn't be able to be yourself almost. You couldn't really talk the same. So, yeah, people definitely did act differently, which is kind of weird because it's like you think that's more NFL stuff. Like, there's cameras in the NFL, guys can't talk, but, like, kind of made it more professional. So we kind of had to just, like, not really talk like we normally do because the cameras are around. But it was definitely added a cool aspect to it for sure. It made it seem pretty cool to be able to watch it every week and things like that.
So the season kicks off. We go down 21-0 right away to Boise. But then, we recover, we come back, we win that game. We look good against Bethune. I think that we're going to start rolling. And then we have that tough loss in Louisville, the last second interception return. And then the loss at Navy, where we blow a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter. How do you kind of keep things from going completely off the rails following a couple tough losses like that?
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty crazy. I mean, I think the Louisville kind of is where everything started, and everything kind of started to fall off because we lost that and Dylan got hurt, and we all heard on the way back on the plane that he broke his collarbone, or he was pretty much out for the season. So after that, we kind of lost hope. We don't have anyone like DJ. I mean, we had Mikey, I think he's a true freshman, right? I mean, that's pretty bad. I don't know that, but I think we just didn't have as much confidence as 2018 when he lost KZ, and it was kind of later in the season with KZ, so guys more developed and knew the offense better, ins and outs, and just were playing better at the end of the season, obviously. So it definitely hurt us being game 3 and that happening. But Mikey came in and bowled out, and I mean, it didn't really have any effect on me. All I did was play field goal. So, but I mean, the guys took it really well that we're playing, and I think we took in Mikey really well, and he played really good in that offense this year.
Yeah, I mean, all told, I mean, a bad loss at Cincinnati, a bad loss at SMU. I mean, Mikey played his role. Was the offense sort of shifted or adjusted after he came in? Was it kind of scaled back a little bit to fit more of maybe what he does better, to make it kind of more simple for him as a true freshman?
Yeah, it's definitely adjusted. Yeah, they made it around Mikey. They kind of adjusted the offense, did little tweaks to it to make it easier for him as a freshman. Kind of had a little bit more protection in certain situations. I mean, the O-line, Coach Malzahn, everyone came in our room and would always say, like, it's up to you guys. Like, you got a lot of veterans. It's up to you to protect Mike.
All right, so 3 letters I want to say to you, and I'm curious to get your feedback, your opinion on them. NIL. Obviously, it was sort of a newer thing in this last season, your last season. Look, as fans, we were all losing our mind over things, right? And, people are too focused on this, too focused on that. It seemed like 19 guys had apparel and design companies and their own shirt companies, and everybody had their own logos, right? So as fans, we're assuming that this is super distracting. Y'all are too focused on NIL stuff, but you were in the locker room. You were around your teammates. How big a deal was NIL? How much was that really talked about from a team perspective?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big time thing for that summer right before July 1st, like literally right now. Last year, we had a lot of meetings like every day, and we normally never have meetings in the summer like that. So felt like camp a little bit, just compliance prepping us, everyone prepping us, kind of making sure that we have this app on our phone so we can turn in every deal we have and make sure it's legal so compliance sees it. So there's just a lot of things, and it was so new. Malzahn just kept saying, this is so new to me, so we're going to work it out as we go. We don't really know what's coming. It's so new. So they definitely helped us out as much as they could, but it was just so crazy. It was just everyone coming at you for all these deals, a lot of people getting it was pretty crazy because it was so new. But I think it's going to change the game a lot, obviously. I have a lot of opinions on that for sure.
Well, how do you think it'll change the game? Do you think it'll be for the better or for the worse?
I mean, I think probably for the worse, just because it's going to like kind of break apart locker rooms. And like, I don't know, the whole college athlete thing is like, it obviously sucks. Like, you're not getting paid and you're making your school millions, but like, that's kind of the grind. That's what it is. And like, you're all laugh about it and you're all in it together. But now it's not really like that anymore. It's just going to be like guys like me grinding still. And then like guys like so-and-so who are making all these deals with car dealerships, or they have these deals with whoever, someone Cocoa Beach, or like, just it's a lot of things out there that could change the game with like 6-figure, 7-figure deals. It's like you're going to look at someone differently if they have all this money and you're just sitting there still struggling, like barely eating. So I think that would change the dynamic a lot in college football, just in the locker rooms. That's just me, my perspective of it. Like just this one year kind of seeing guys make more money. It kind of, you can tell in the locker room a little bit, people treat people differently and people talk behind people's back that you would never heard, like think would do before. So that kind of opened my eyes this year for sure.
Well, speaking of talking about guys behind their back, I don't know if it happened or not, but the end of the year, Dylan Gabriel seems like he's cleared to play. He's warming up before the USF game. Everybody thinks maybe he's going to make a comeback. Decides not to play in that game. Decides not to play in the bowl game. What's the feeling in the locker room? Did anybody say anything to him about it? Maybe people think that he quit on the team. Anything like that?
No, I think we just thought he was taking like precaution. Like trying to come back as slow as possible because we knew he's a good player and he didn't want to ruin his career and kind of like do anything too quickly. But also a lot of the guys are just uneducated. I don't think people really knew if he could have come back. I mean, I knew, obviously you kind of have to know because people talk about it, but like we thought maybe he's just healing slower. Like everyone's different with different injuries. So, but towards the end of the season, you're kind of wondering, but no one really said anything and no one was really like taking it bad. It was just kind of like, okay, maybe he'll come back for the bowl game. That'll be perfect. And that never happened. And then once that happened, there was some talks about him leaving. And we kind of all knew at that point, it all came to fruition. Is like, oh, we're not mad anymore because now at least there's like a reason. Like we knew you're kind of trying to leave. So it wasn't really that. There wasn't too much in the locker room going around. I would just say too much. There's a lot of NIL situations, but nothing like that really, no.
All right, and then talk to us a little bit about the bowl game. Obviously, it's a big matchup for us playing Florida. You know, it's in Florida. We got half the stadium there full of UCF fans. We're loud, going crazy. It's a big game for us. How big was it for you guys going into the game and then afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty huge. I remember Coach Heuepl, I mean, he was saying all the time, all week in the hotel, like, let's shock the world. Like, no one thinks we're going to beat them. Everyone thinks we're going to lose. Like, let's just go out there and play. Like, just do it for all the seniors, all these guys. Like, I had told Coach Heuepl that I wasn't going to play anymore. So there's a lot of seniors like me, Cole Schneider, so Josh McMullen. We all just wanted to go out with a bang. Like, we were a brotherhood at that point. That O-line room is the closest I've ever been. Like, so Herb just kind of came into that, and he knew that, he felt that. So that's all we were preaching about all week. So, and then after when it happened, I mean, it was like the best feeling ever. We're crying with everyone, just hugging. It was so surreal just seeing O'Keefe do that. That's God right there. Just doing that for Otis. Like it was all set in stone before the game was even started. Like it was all going to come down, and it was just crazy how it happened. And it just felt surreal, honestly, the whole time. But yeah, it was definitely an awesome opportunity to be able to beat that in-state rival of Florida, kind of prove ourselves.
Well, you mentioned it. You had another year of eligibility if you wanted it. You had decided. It sounds like right before the bowl game that you were gonna not take that. Then I saw you post on social media. You were kind of reconsidering maybe coming back, maybe going back to transfer. But it sounds like you're at peace with your decision now that your college football days are over.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple people still hitting me up, but I mean, Coach G.J. Kenny wanted me to go down to San Antonio and play for him. And then a lot of schools in Missouri hit me up, some D2s. But I mean, I guess it was still on the table probably about 2 weeks ago, and I decided no, like 2 weeks ago, because I knew it's kind of come down the line, and like I couldn't wait too long and put these schools, like make them save the scholarship. So I just decided. So I just moved back home, and kind of that was it. Just left Florida. But yeah, for a long time I thought I was going to go play for Incarnate Word, but just ended up not following through with it. I have a really good job right now for this sales company, and my cousin got me the job. So I mean, it was just a great opportunity, and I just figured I would take it and just kind of see where it went, and I'm doing really good in it. So I just kind of didn't really want to do the small D1 anyways. I thought that ending at UCF was kind of just perfect. So, and I was just burnt out, so it's decided not to.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how would you sum up your UCF career, right? You came in at the highest of highs, right? The 2020 season sees a bit of a dip, and obviously you're there as things kind of come back on the upswing. If you had to kind of describe your UCF career to somebody, how would you describe your time in Orlando?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, just how it happened, how I got to show up after the undefeated season, kind of go through that whole entire awesome streak with Heuepl, his first time being a head coach. It started off really hot and then kind of had some downs. But, I mean, overall, I think it was just a great experience. I mean, it's hard to describe it, honestly. It's the best time of my life moving out to Florida. I met a lot of great people, a lot of great coaches. A lot of coaches came in and out, so that's a lot of just great people I have and families, their families. So I think overall it's a great experience. I mean, any kid that's kind of deciding where to go, I feel like Orlando, like, everyone gets all hyped up in all the like SeaWorld, all Disney, all the beaches, but I think just Orlando and the people there in general are just awesome. Like, you can't really beat that campus, and just UCF in general, all the UCF mafia, Twitter mafia, everything, like the fan base. It's just a pretty sick place to be at. It's one of the biggest schools too, but I think honestly it's just surreal. I think I'm just lucky that I was able to even go there and play. It's hard to describe. I can't really put any words on it.
All right. Well, before we end every interview around here, we do a little rapid fire question. So, Brett, it could be anything about music, movies, sports. You never know what you're going to get. So, we've got some hot rapid fires if you're ready.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so Josh McMullen clued us all into the thick fellas tattoo thing y'all had. Can you confirm or deny that you are rocking a thick fellas tattoo?
Yeah, and you want to see it or what?
I'm not really sure. Okay, yes I do. Okay,
you can edit it out if it's not live.
No, I'll keep that in.
All of us got on the
time.
same spot. We all got it on our thigh. It was just kind of one of those things. The good fellas, all the O-line got it. Not all the O-line, but a lot of us. It's kind of, you had to be like jumped into it almost. Had to do like some certain things and be a certain personality. But it was just kind of like our brotherhood, like Matt Lee, Cole Snyder, me, Jake Hescock, Josh McMullen, Eric Seidelman, Mason Chaliwa, a couple other guys that are on the team. But we all kind of just have the thick fellas. Just kind of like a mindset, just like the thick boys. Like we're not afraid to be big. Like we're just the big dudes out there. It came from the movie Goodfellas, so it was all Josh. I was actually the last member to join it, so I can't really give you too much history on it. But
yeah. I was gonna say, so that's not what I want to know, Brad. I want to know who was the scaredy cat. Who was the guy who wouldn't get the tattoo?
Who was it? Jake Hescock was the one. That's who it was.
Yeah. I know Marcus told us he did not get one because he transferred in and felt like he wasn't part of the group.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus or Sam weren't a part of it because it was kind of like just a different thing that, I don't know, they decided. And it was more of like a Mason Chaliwa and Cole Schneider thing. So some guys may think they're in it, but you have to get the tattoo to be in it.
It's fair.
A group chat. Yeah, you have to.
Rules are rules. No, rules are rules. I respect it.
Yeah, for sure.
So looking at your bio, you're listed at what, 6'6", 300 pounds. But looking at you on video, you don't look like a 300-pounder. Have you lost a lot of weight since football season?
Yeah, I probably weigh like 250, 245 right now. I've just been working out and running a lot, so I was just trying to get a lot of weight off of me. It was kind of annoying being that big.
When you're trying to bulk up and you're just trying to add weight, what's your favorite food to cheat on that you can put away a bunch of?
I mean, if you're trying to gain weight, like for real, it's just protein shakes. You just got to have big protein shakes. But like my go-to thing for sure was like, it's probably not good, but I would eat a lot of like, I would work out a lot. And then my cheat meal or my meal, if I needed to put on weight for a weigh-in, was Huey Magoo's. Like the sweet heat, I would get like the 7-piece and then get like double fries. Like that would usually get me right where I'll get 2 meals. But that was all. I could always eat a lot of that, even though I hated eating, sadly.
You mentioned that you like to play pranks on Marcus Tatum. Can you tell us the funniest prank you played on him?
I would just do like mischievous stuff. So he would be in a different locker room than me because he didn't want to. I don't even know if I should say this, but he didn't get vaccinated, so he had to be in a different locker room. But I would always like take his cleats, or like he was always a big hair guy, obviously with his dreads. He'd always have some conditioner he put in his hair on like away games, and I would always take it like. I wouldn't do it on game day, but I always mess with him like on the traveling. He would always think he'd forget it. And then he was a big car guy too, so I'd always scare him with his car and do different things in his car. But I mean, I'm just pretty much a prankster in practice a lot too. Like I'll mess with him a lot in practice when he's tired, and like I won't be as tired. It's just funny to mess with.
All right, I'm going to ask you a couple, Malzahn or Heuepl. You tell me what the correct answer is. Who's the funniest guy?
Malzahn.
He has jokes at least? Or Heuepl's just not funny at all?
He's just funny. I think he's like just tries to be funny and he's not, but just his personality is way more funny than Heuepl.
All right, so who would you rather hang out and have a beer with? Is that Malzahn, I guess, for that reason?
No, I would say Heuepl, but I'd just say Heuepl's just more serious, but he's also like, I would probably not want to drink with Malzahn. He's a pretty professional guy.
All right, and who wins in a fight?
Heuepl for sure. Have to give that to him.
He's got too much weight, right?
Yeah. Wow. And he's an athlete. I don't care if you got a dad bod. He's still an athlete, so you have to take that.
I mean, did you ever throw the ball in practice?
What?
You ever see Heuepl throw the ball around in practice?
Yeah, he would do the fat and goes on Friday, so all the O-line would catch balls from him and Ellerby every Friday. So you could see that he had a pretty good spiral.
Malzahn's a tough guy. He took a pretty good hit from Quadric this year, though. I mean, he can take a blow at least. No.
Yeah, I know, that was pretty crazy. I can't believe that happened. I was shocked. I didn't know it was that bad either when he couldn't even really walk. So yeah, he's definitely a Southern tough guy. He's got that toughness in him for sure.
All right, I got a couple of O-line questions for you. So number one, if they legitimately called holding every time there was holding, how many holding penalties would you have had in your career?
I don't know. I probably wouldn't have that many. Only times I would really get, I'm a pretty like explosive guy. I wasn't that strong on bench press and I wasn't that heavy. So I was like, I would always come off the ball and just try to drive people right away. And then like once you get them going, you don't got to hold them. A lot of the holding would be in pass pro, but I would probably say I'd probably have like quite a few in pass pro just because I like to compensate and hold people. But there's certain points in pass pro when you can hold people. So it's like, it's hard when you're not in that point. It's technically holding, but if you're right here, it's not. So I would probably get called quite a bit, but Coach Han would always say, you're in the box with the big guys. Like, they don't see it, then you're good, and they'll give you a warning. So probably a lot more than I would like to be happy for, but that just kind of comes with the game, just heat of the moment.
Which of your teammates would have led in penalties if they called holding on legitimately every time there was holding?
I don't know. I don't want to say. I'll probably say like Marcus because statistically, but I don't even know if Marcus holds that much. He just got called for it a lot.
And then you give up a sack. Let's just say you give up a sack, right? Some guy gets around you, right? Hits the quarterback. What do you say to the quarterback? Do you apologize? You're like, my bad. Like, I'll get you next time. Like, or do you just kind of like hide away and hope no one notices?
No, you don't really say nothing, honestly. He kind of knows that's how the game goes. Like, what are you going to do? Yeah, like, I'm not going to go yell at Dylan when he throws a pick. So, like, even though, like, it's a little bit different because I directly did it, but it's still, like, there's no hard feelings. Usually try not to give up a sack in general, or at least not give up a clean one so it's not as bad, so you don't at least feel as bad. But, yeah, I mean, I've never gave up a sack in my life, so I don't really know. I think one time I, like, kind of held a guy, Dylan, when I was playing tight end, and the guy hit Dylan's arm, but he never, like, sacked him. But so I never had to go through that, thankfully.
All right, your dad played in the NFL, yes?
Yeah, he did. 12 years.
And your cousin also in the NFL. So different teams. Did you grow up having a favorite NFL team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Chiefs. I got to go with the Chiefs. Growing up in Wichita, Kansas, my dad playing for the Chiefs. I think when my dad left the Chiefs, he was the longest tenured player ever there. Like, he played the longest there, and then obviously someone's broken that since '91. But so he's a pretty big time guy, being born and raised in Kansas, playing there, being second overall pick. So I had to be a Chiefs fan. I went to football games on the field, like sitting in the end zone before I even remember them. So definitely had to be a Chiefs fan if I liked it or not.
So the last few years, they've been pretty good. Have you been able to go to the Super Bowl or any big games like that?
I should have went to the Super Bowl in Miami. My cousin played in that and won it, obviously, but I ended up not going. I mean, I've been to a lot of big time games and everything. I've just never been to really. I think I've been to one or two playoff games in my life, but I can't really remember which ones they were. But I've never been to the Super Bowl or anything. But my dad has season tickets, so definitely go to a lot more games now that I'm done playing.
They called your cousin the Belldozer, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a cool nickname? Do you have a nickname cooler than that?
No, not really. I mean, they would always make fun of me and call me like Baby Dozer, but that's about it. I didn't really have a nickname. I mean, we had a package called Hippo. All the training room people called me Hippo because I was our like 12 personnel package. We obviously couldn't say 12, so we would just yell out Hippo. But I was just pretty much just B-Bell. I wasn't cool like my cousin. I didn't have the notoriety like him.
Pre-game, you're getting ready for a game, right? What music are you listening to? What's getting you hyped up or fired up for a game?
I like just like a lot of like hard metal music. I mean, because what you're doing is not normal going out there, so not listening to normal music kind of gets you hyped up. Go hit a grown man, and then just like a lot of the new age rap, whatever's out at the time, kind of the uppity songs. You know, I couldn't really pinpoint certain artists, but I was kind of just divulging in everything, just get you going. Sometimes I wouldn't listen to music. I would just go over my plays too, just depend how big the game was.
What's your favorite football movie of all time?
Damn, that's a hard one. I would probably say I just saw this the other day, and I think Gridiron Game's a good one. I probably sound uneducated saying that, but that's a good one. And then, like, Remember the Titans, you can't beat that. That's pretty cool. Like, all the movements they have in that movie and kind of how they came together football. So, but yeah, it's probably Remember the Titans has to be if I had to go with something to not kind of sound like I don't know what I'm talking about because I didn't have time to think about it.
All right, here's the last one. I'll let you get out of here. I've been dying to ask him this question. I saw this over the weekend, and I have to know: smelling salts. How bad do they really smell? What can you describe a smelling salt to me?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really bad burning. Like, I don't know if you've ever had anything in your nose that just burns really bad or like smelling something that burns. That's what it feels like. like in your nose, but like the feeling like mentally, it just like gets you going. Kind of just feels like, I don't know, just like a breath, like someone slapped you in the face almost. Like the feeling after you get punched, like the adrenaline rush. I don't know. That's just like a real uppity feeling. My tight end coach, when Heuepl was there, John Cooper, he was a big smelling salt guy. He would buy them off Amazon. We'd have them all the time. And like in meetings, he would give them to us if we were sleeping. So I had a bad experience with those. He had like 5 in a water bottle, shook them up and like gave them to me for the UConn game in 2018. Like I couldn't breathe for like a second, but normally it's not like that, but it's pretty cool. It's nothing. It's one of those things where you see it as a fan and like see him doing it in the NFL, and it's not like anything crazy. It's probably just more a placebo, if anything.
Yeah, you probably build up a tolerance after a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't last that long. So like you'd have to do it right before the ball snapped, and then it would last for like 2 seconds. So not anything crazy.
All right, well, I'm gonna go check out Amazon, and we will let you get on with your night, Brett. But we appreciate you taking so much time to join us and walk down memory lane. Awesome to catch up with you, man. And obviously, people can follow you on Twitter at your Brett BE71 if they want to follow you on Twitter and keep tabs with you. But we appreciate you hopping on, man, and best of luck to you as you embark on your next chapter.
Awesome, yeah, appreciate you guys for having me. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, charge on.
Thanks,
charge on.